Teacher Talking Sports, what it does, what it do, how we live. And after each week of the fantasy football season, I will be posting a video in which we look at the fantasy stars who were mostly unowned. So in order to be eligible to be on here, you had to have been owned in less than 25% of ESPN fantasy football leagues. So we're looking at the top scoring quarterback, two top scoring running backs, two top scoring wide receivers, and one top tight end who were eligible. We're going to highlight those players. This week was not very strong in the running back department. I almost thought about extending it to 25.4%. That's how much Khalil Herbert was owned in coming into week 3. But I said 20, less than 25%, so I have to stick with it. But let's get into it. The week 3 fantasy stars who are mostly unowned, although running back didn't really have stars. Quarterback Geno Smith, owned in 5.6% of fantasy football leagues heading into the week. Threw for 325 yards, 2 TDs, did have a pick. But Geno Smith leads the NFL with this 77.5 completion percentage through 3 games. I believe he's 10th in QBR. And this was actually his first 300-plus yard passing game since the final game of the 2014 season. Next, we have Samaje Perine of the Bengals, was owned in 3.7% of leagues, rushed for 47 yards, and had a receiving touchdown. Much of the damage came late in the fourth quarter when Joe Mixon went down with an ankle injury. Mixon has not looked very good this season. Perine looked very solid in his time in week 3. Mixon is expected to play on Thursday Night Football in week 4 against the Miami Dolphins, but Perine definitely might be worth an add. To show how weak running back was for those that were mostly unknown, the second running back is Mark Ingram II. Was owned in 20.1% of fantasy football leagues in ESPN. Just finished with 18 rushing yards, but did have a rushing touchdown. And that was actually a fourth quarter score that got New Orleans on the board in their game against Carolina. Unfortunately, they were not able to come back and win, but Mark Ingram did at least score a touchdown, and we'll see how much playing time he could get. Alvin Kamara has already missed 1 game this season, so it may be worth a stash. Wide receiver, what a breakout game for Mack Hollins, who's owned in just 0.8% of ESPN leagues entering week 3. Finished with 8 catches for 158 yards and 1 touchdown. In the past 2 games now has been targeted 18 times, has 13 receptions. Hunter Renfrow was out for this game, so Mack Hollins definitely saw more playing time than he normally would, but he has been on the field a lot. In his 3 games, week 1, 88%, week 2, 87%, and week 3, 97% of offensive snaps saw Mack Hollins on the field. The other wide receiver, Zay Jones of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Zay Jones was owned in 8.3% of ESPN leagues. Excellent week 3. Saw him catch 10 passes for 85 yards and a score in their blowout victory over the Chargers. Don't look now, but Zay Jones leads the Jaguars with his 19 receptions through 3 games. Has caught 19 of his 24 targets, so being targeted 8 times a game as well. Looks like he has supplanted Marvin Jones Jr. as the number 2 receiver. Christian Kirk has been targeted more than Jones, but I believe Jones has 1 more reception. And tight end Tyler Conklin of the New York Jets. Conklin was owned in 10.9% of ESPN leagues. Finished with 8 catches for 84 yards, catching passes on all 8 of his targets. Through 3 games, he has 18 receptions. That is second amongst all tight ends in the NFL, only behind Mark Andrews. This guy caught 61 passes last year with the Vikings. With Zach Wilson returning, We will see if Wilson has the same chemistry that Joe Flacco did with Tyler Conklin, but definitely worth an add in most fantasy leagues. So there you have it. The top fantasy players in week 3 who were owned in less than 25% of ESPN fantasy football leagues. Which of these do you think might have a chance to be rostered for much of the rest of the season? I don't see Geno Smith, but I do see Tyler Conklin definitely having a chance. Zay Jones, I put in a waiver request for him, which I haven't even seen if I got him. I'll have to do that. Mack Hollins, we'll see if he could keep it up once Renfro is back. But Perrine and Mark Ingram, maybe if you have Mixon or Kamara and want to stash them. Um, as a handcuff, you could do that, but not sure how much value it'll have the rest of the season. Don't forget to subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend, and subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.